Hello everybody, this is Graeme Anderson from Four Corners of the Board, and today I'm going to be looking at Gorus Maximus. Now, I have always liked trick-taking games. Even before I got into hobby board gaming, I used to play card games with my friends and family almost every weekend. And when I saw that this was a trick-taking game for 1 to 8 players, I was intrigued. Now, I must admit, one of my favorite trick-taking games is one called Teach You, but I feel it's probably best with 4 players. Another one I really enjoy is called Fox in the Forest, but again, that's just for 2 players. Now, for larger groups, I do have Tournament of Camelot, which plays up to 6 players, but that tends to be a little more complicated. So I was looking for an easy-to-teach trick-taking game for a large group of people. So, will Gorus Maximus fit that space? Let's get it to the table, see how it's played, and we'll come back for my final thoughts on Gorus Maximus. So here's Gorus Maximus set up for 3 players. Now, the only difference in player count is the number of suits you're going to be playing with and the total number of cards. The game is played over a number of rounds until one player has won 3 rounds. That is, they have collected 3 crowd support tokens. A round is over when all the players have played all of their cards. The other components are a card that tracks what trump is for the round, or in this game it is called the preferred school, and the crowd support tokens. All the cards are dealt out for the round, and then the round starts with the player to the left of the dealer playing a card from their hand. Now, during the initial trick of the round, the very first card will set the trump suit for the rest of the round. It is marked by moving the little paper clip to the appropriate suit on the tracker. Now, each player around the table must play a card from their hand that follows suit. If the player does not have that suit in their hands, they are allowed to play any card. Once each player has played a card, the round is over. If anyone played a card from the trump suit, the highest trump suit card will take the trick. If no trump card was played, then the person who played the highest card that matched the suit that the first player played will win the trick. The 1 cards go in front of the person who won them. The winning player will then play the first card of the next trick. During a trick, you must always follow the suit that is led, with the following exceptions. The one I already mentioned was that if you don't have that suit in your hand, you can play any card. The other exception is if you match the number of the card that was just played. This will change the trump suit, but further players of that trick must still play cards following their original lead suit. Play will continue until all players have played their card. Each player will then count up the crowd favor for each card they have won. Crowd favor is located on the cards in the top left-hand corner. Lower value cards are not worth anything, and the 8s are worth -4 points. The 0 rank card of the trump suit is also worth 5 crowd favor points. Whoever has the highest crowd favor points takes a crowd support token with the 1 side up. That player will then deal the cards for the next round. The game continues until one player has 3 crowd support tokens, and that player is the winner. Now let's get back to the table to see what I thought about Gorus Maximus. Let's first talk about theme and components. Now, I should mention that there are 2 versions of the game. They play the same, but my premium edition, which comes in a little slipcover, does have upgraded components. I'm not exactly sure what components were upgraded beyond the metal sword, but you know what? Good components. Now, I really like the card quality in this game. They are plastic cards. Now, they are smooth on one side and textured on the other, so they don't go sliding everywhere when you are shuffling them. So, good card quality. The tokens that you use for the crowd favor are nice. They're nice weight poker tokens. Now, the paperclip used to mark which your preferred school is here is a bit underwhelming. Now, the upgraded components, you do have the metal sword, which you could use to mark, but, you know, practically, the paperclip actually works better. It just doesn't look as nice. I found with this one, it tends to kind of slide over if you knock the table, because these cards are slick on this side. This sword, although it looks better, isn't as practical as the paperclip. Now, the art on the card is something that I've been asked a few times why it was like this. Because the blood on the card, the game box says it's rated PG-13. But you know what? The gameplay itself really doesn't match that. It's a simple trick-taking game. The theme of the game is pervasive throughout the entire game and rulebook. And that can either be a positive or a negative depending on how much you like theme. You know, when teaching the game, it is much easier to explain the game in terms of other trick-taking games. What's a preferred school? Well, that's the trump suit. What's about? Well, that's a round. What's a challenge? It's when someone plays the same number. Gladiator school? Well, that just means it's the suit. It made that the rulebook was less useful than I would have hoped, because they renamed everything in a trick-taking game in this gladiator kind of realm. And you know what? Being a trick-taking game, the theme really doesn't matter. And there are no special actions on the card. and it's really a less thematic and more mechanical game, which I'm completely fine with. So let's talk about the gameplay itself. The gameplay turned out to be a fairly simple trick-taking game. Really, the one change is changing the preferred suit for the round. Playing a card of the same number as the one that was just played definitely adds some randomness to the game, but it's not definitely overly complicated. It feels like a family weight or maybe a party weight trick-taking game. One where you don't need to be poring over your cards and looking for your partner's tells or the tells of your opponents, trying to figure out what the cards they have. And you know what? This is not a bad thing. It makes this game extremely accessible. But the art choices seem to be at odds with that. You know, this is not a game I'm going to be pulling out at a family setting where there's a wide range of people. It's going to be for a slightly older crowd. Now, for me personally, there's a little bit too much randomness in the game. I do like the negative points on the cards, and watching when they come out is important to make sure you use your strongest cards to win the points and not use your strongest cards to actually lose points. And with more players, the 13 cards come out, and those are also negative points. The 0 cards are much more difficult to plan for. Since changing trump is very random throughout the rounds, you're not sure whether the 0 card is going to be worth anything at the end of the round, and honestly, it could change in the very last hand whether that's 5 or 0 points. Now, will this replace some of my other trick-taking games? Probably not. It does not replace them, as I prefer games with a bit more strategy, and I prefer partner trick-taking games. Now, you can play this game in teams, but you know what? There's really not change in the gameplay beyond adding your crowd favorite points together. Now, according to the rule book, the designer likes the team game for 6 or more players. Now, would I recommend this game? It really depends. If you really like trick-taking games and you play a lot of them, this game might not be for you. It may be a little too simplistic. But if you have a large group and want to play something quick and simple that plays a large group of people, that's what I would recommend it for. So that's it for the moment. As always, thanks for watching.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.